All right, hey, welcome back to the channel. Glad that you could, whoa. My son Aaron. No, welcome back to the channel. We are out for a little bit of a one-wheel ride. The boys are actually learning to one-wheel. Aaron, tell me real quick, one word, how is it?
Nice.
Nice. All right. So, yeah, here's Ben. He's going up a hill. Don't crash, don't crash. Nice. Come down the hill. Awesome. Perfect. Well, happy Easter. Is that what you say? Happy Easter? It's Easter weekend, so we're excited about that. This video is actually going to be a little bit of family activity, but a lot of just behind the scenes of a video I put together for Good Friday, and show you kind of how all that goes together. So glad you're along for the ride. Let's go. Hey, so real quick, before I get into the editing side of this project, I wanted to show you how I shot it and kind of what my setup was, just to kind of give you some context. So here you go. First, lighting. As you'll see, the shot I was going for was basically a static headshot with half the face lit and the other dark. So to get this effect, I used my Aperture 120D as my key light and then placed it basically at a 90-degree angle, lighting just the one side of the actor's face. I wanted a little reflective light on the shadow side of the face, so I attempted to use some negative fill to help with this. Unfortunately, I don't have proper flags or material to use for negative fill, so I had to get creative and use a black bed sheet instead. But the problem with that was the bed sheet was really kind of made out of a material that reflected light rather than absorbed it. So I don't think it helped so much as a negative fill, but I was able to correct some of it in post. Next, I used my Sennheiser microphone just out of frame to capture the crisp audio that I needed. Finally, I used my A7 III with an 85mm 1.8 lens and recorded it all in 4K 24 frames per second at 10-bit 422. Which really gave me depth of color that really made things look super, super nice. I think for the first time shooting a log, I think it turned out pretty decent. So now that we've seen the setup for the shoot, let's get into editing. All right, so I'm at my workstation now, and I'm just gonna show you my workflow, kind of what I do. I thought it would be at least interesting to see, for my own sake, what I'm doing now, and then as I learn and grow, I can look back on this and go, oh, Matt, you were so silly. You thought you knew how to edit back then. Because I always want to get better. And hopefully whatever you do, you want to get better at as well. We're gonna open up our Final Cut Pro. Final Cut Pro is what I began working on things, iMovie, and then went to Final Cut Pro because it was simple. I know many use Premiere and even DaVinci now, and I'm just maybe an old dog, and to learn new tricks would be a little difficult. And I think Final Cut Pro is still a very powerful tool and resource, so that's what I'm sticking with here. So I'll show you just a few things that I do that I've picked up over the time, and just kind of some of the tricks that help me, my flow. I don't know if it's right, but it's what I do. So if by chance down the road seasoned editors watch this, you can go ahead and let me know what I'm doing wrong or how I can fix something. So we're working on a clip for our Good Friday service. This is my wife Anna. She's a great actress and is very talented. But I shot everything in S-Log. Been shooting in HGL2 up to this point. So this is kind of brand new to me, but I'm pretty happy with how it's turned out. However, I think I'm cheating a bit, and I'll show you what I mean by that as we get going. So we'll drop in this clip, and you can see that it is, we shot it in real, just kind of moody, one light with some backfill just to kind of really get that contrast going down the middle of her face. That's kind of the mood that we're setting here. I recorded the audio separately and then synced it in post. Final Cut Pro again has a great sync program as long as you get clean audio from your source camera as well as then from your secondary mic. It works really, really well. I've had no issues with it to this point. So here's another thing. I immediately lift it from the story. For me, to work with the snap, I know that it can really work to your advantage and workflow can be a lot faster. I hope to learn that one day. Just for me, I spend more time trying to fix the snap and work around it, or try to learn how to work around it, and it just really slows me down at this point. So for what I do, I just use it. I just use the timeline as is, but what I've done is I've actually gone ahead and synchronized my audio with my videos. So I'm actually just going to get rid of that. I'm going to bring down my already synced audio video. And so now immediately the audio is actually better already. So
but when the day actually came.
A few things that I do immediately, you can see just kind of the picture in here is pretty flat. I'm going to change my vector scope over here to just a waveform. RGB overlay is good for me. Something that I really like to do is I like to turn on this little tool. It's called Range Check, and I turn it on for Luma. And what that allows me to do, and maybe this is a bit of a cheat, but I don't have to then look at my waveform for every single clip. If I'm trying to get through things fast or just do a quick exposure for my clip. So notice as I pull up my exposure and my highlights, it starts giving me those zebras that we're used to in our cameras for accurate exposure. And when I get all of the blinky little zebra lines out of there, notice that my line over here in the waveform is below that 100 threshold that we all talk about. Now I can push that as much as I want. If there's just kind of just one little area, maybe I want the rest of, the face is still very well exposed, so I can get away with maybe a couple of these shiny parts in the hair or whatnot. Then I can also do the same over here. I can bring this down. Notice when I get below the threshold at the bottom, it'll also give me the sparkly little things, and I can then just bring that up enough. So now I know my exposure is in range, and I can mess around with that. It's not 100% that I'll stay with that, but that's it's just something that helps me kind of speed through the process a little more. And it also was really helpful when I was just learning what exposure was and how to do that, and I was watching all these videos and I saw that little trick. I was like, oh, that's so nice to have just something that's checking me, making sure. It's kind of my own teacher, if you will. And so that's my little hack there. You can feel free to use it if you'd like. If you're more advanced than me, then awesome. Don't use it, and you're awesome. Okay, so another thing I saw again in a video to where you can actually come in when your picture profile is set correctly in your camera. You can actually go over here to Info, and then you can come down to Camera LUT. And this is specific for this clip that I've dropped in here, and then you can go down to the picture profile that I set in my camera, and then it applies it to this clip. Now notice that I've already exposed the clip without this LUT in there, so I will go back and get rid of and expose it correctly now with the LUT in there. And now notice, and I just have to kind of get things right here, but notice as we zero this in, okay, maybe just a little of the mids down, get a little more moody, but notice now this is a well colored picture. Like, this looks really, really good, just straight out without really even doing anything else to it. Now I can add just a little saturation in there. Too much. I'm happy with that. I always like to kind of do a curves, and I again just pick these things up here and there. I just want to darken just a little bit on this side because we're really looking for that dramatic, you know, kind of when it gets to the dark, it really drops off dramatically. So we're not looking necessarily for that fine roll off into the shadows. We really want it to be pretty sharp. At least that's kind of what I was going for. So the curves kind of give me that ability to kind of hone that in a little more. So I like that right there. I think that's pretty good. All right, so that looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. The only other thing that we want to adjust here is our sound. So for sound, I actually went to a YouTuber that I follow, Matty Apoya, and I actually downloaded his presets for vocals. And that has been a huge help for me. I'm pretty good with sound. I can get a voice to sound pretty good and I could do all of that work, but the fact that I can just come over here, I can look for female voice indoor and drop it onto the timeline and it sounds really good immediately. It is a huge help to me. So for instance, listen to this.
So beautiful. He taught us and healed the sick and did so many wonderful things.
Okay, so that sounds pretty decent. That's actually a really good starting place. But notice when I throw on his preset, what it sounds like now.
So beautiful. He taught us and healed the sick and did so many wonderful things.
You just get that instant compression, volume increase without like sounding super loud. It just kind of really fills everything in for me. Now, oftentimes I will then go back in. I go to EQ and I'll drop an EQ in there because I want to then tweak it for the actual voice. So I'll come in here and you can notice that when she's speaking,
Time since our exile to Babylon. It was like God himself.
her S's are really, and it's really just kind of high ends.
It's hard to believe a man like that could have enemies. But not everyone believed in him. Something he said or did made the men from the temple angry. It seemed that Jesus was teaching about a different kind of faith. One that had less to do with sacrifice.
Yeah, so I think that sounds pretty good. I'm really happy with how it's all coming together, from the how we shot it, the lighting, the look that I got at the end, the sound is really good. One last thing that I then go through, especially for this one, and this is something that I actually just saw and just found out that I think is going to be hugely helpful for me. So see these gaps here.
They said,
and you can hear a
the
little
Lord needs it.
and breathing and things like that. So what I like to do is I'll just hit range, or R for range. You go in here and you actually can then highlight this section in between her voices, and then you can bring that down. I'll do the same for in between here. But notice what it does here. If I zoom in, it automatically gives you that slow in, slow out curve. So it could sound something more like this now.
We asked them about it. They said, the Lord needs it.
So with some music underlay, I think that's going to sound really good, really clean, crisp audio that's going to really cut through and be powerful for the video that we want to show. I did just want to give a quick shout out to Brandon Trotter, who actually wrote this script, contacted him, and he was very gracious to allow us to use this for our congregation, to bless our congregation here. So big shout out to Brandon. Thank you so much. So yeah, that's about all I have. Thank you for joining me. Hopefully this was helpful. I really didn't want to do a video like this because I really feel like I have so much to learn in this area. So, because everyone does it a little differently, and I guess that's something that I'm learning and coming to the realization of is it doesn't really matter how you get to the end product, or even what your end product looks like, as long as that's what you wanted your end product to be. So I'm still finding my unique voice in all of that, but it's a fun process to be a part of. And hopefully, no matter what it is that you are pursuing or that you are crafting or doing, maybe it's not video or photography, but whatever it is, find your unique style in doing that and do it to the best of your ability. All right, thanks for joining me. So how was the one-wheel experience? Was that pretty cool?
Yeah, other than a snowboard, that's kind of like my first time really being on a skateboard like substance.
That's true. That's
So,
true. But it's kind of like a skateboard, right?
Yeah, so the fact that it balances for you.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, it's nothing different from a skateboard because skateboards, you have to stand up like that. So technically, it's not really balancing for you. It's more of
Like that.
yeah, more of just you balancing on top of it.
Yeah.
But it's fun. It's like a modified skateboard.
Yeah, you guys have caught on really quick.
Mm-hmm.